Well, Ian, this is the first time we've talked, but man, I just recently got into psychedelic therapy.
Okay.
Yeah, and I followed your career while you were in the UFC, and I have a wrestling background, so I wrestled in college for a little bit at the University of Oklahoma.
Nice.
So the first guy who ever showed me an arm bar was Matt Grice. Remember him?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, man, I recently got into psychedelic therapy, and I've had a couple sessions. I had a couple MDMA sessions, and then most recently I did a MDMA and psilocybin
So those are fun together. Stacking medicines is like, I don't know, it's a lot of fun because you don't have to go as deep with one of them. You can kind of pair them up and access multiple parts of, because each one is kind of opening a different door.
Right.
So that's always, it's obviously, it's fun to do them both ways. I mean, fun a lot of times is not fun, but it's if you like to suffer like I do. I teach suffering. I'm after this, I'm going to go choke my clients and my students, making them stronger through suffering, through pressure.
Yeah.
Going deep. How deep have you gone?
I went 5 grams.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
How was the experience?
Amazing.
How did it make you feel?
Feeling's one thing. Man, I guess it's a hard thing to explain, right? Yeah, I don't know, man. I had an experience that kind of made me feel a certain way. At the end, when I had that ego disillusion moment, right? I was losing track of my identity, trying to remember things, and I was trying to remember my girlfriend's face, and I couldn't remember her face. And then I was like, okay, well, I remember what I said. I remember, but she's a girl. She's a female. And then I was like, okay, hold on. What's female? What's male? I'm losing track of that. And I'm like, okay, all right, allow, and I said, but I do know God. And then the word God just popped up, and then as soon as it popped up, it just dissolved. And that anxiety started right when the word dissolved. And I was like, this is the moment where I think a lot of people have talked about where they freak out. And and in that moment I was like, oh, but that's where the meaning is. And so I sat in that, and everything went black, and I was kind of like sitting in this kind of like this space of like just contentment. And I sat there for a while. I thought it was 5 minutes. I think it was 2 hours. but that's what my therapist said. But yeah, it was an interesting. I think it's a hard thing to explain. The feeling you get. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, way longer than me, right? So
you'll get. It becomes easier.
Yeah.
As you express yourself in this manner, obviously, you like talking. You have a show. That's your way to analyze things. So as you keep going down, keep telling the story, keep remembering. Because how long ago was this?
2 months, I think.
Yeah. Oh, you've got a long time to go before things even really, really make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mushrooms takes months. Ayahuasca can take a year, about maybe 2 years to really get the full integration. I'm over 2 years since I've done ayahuasca, and I'm still, I things are galvanized actually, and I'm finally putting them into action. Mushrooms is the same sort of way. It just takes maybe not a year, but it'll start to formulate in your mouth and your brain, all the sensations, and you'll be able to analyze it much more in depth over time.
Yeah. What What got you into starting your McCall method?
Well, I point out a lot of the darker sides, the negative sides of psychedelics. I mean, if you knew who my mentors were and the people that were in my life, were like, we preach harm prevention and everyone don't spook the horses. You know, take this with, you know, do this with a lot of integrity, keep your moral compass on track, because a lot of it gets spun out of control in this space. Where was I going with that? Sorry, what was your question?
Just what made you start your McCall method?
I started my journey. I did everything wrong. That's what I was getting at.
All right.
I did everything wrong. And I have, like, the world's best coaches. I have a guy that wrote books with Timothy Leary and Gordon Wasson and Carl Ruck. You know, The Immortality Key?
Yeah. Brian Moresky.
So Brian wrote that book because of books like The Road to Eleusis.
Yep.
And the guy that I'm good friends with that has mentored me a bit is Robert Forte. He was the 19-year-old religious scholar that rewrote the book, the last two iterations with Ruck and Leary and those guys. So he doesn't really get a bunch of credit for it because he was a teenager, I think, or maybe like early 20s.
Yeah.
But he worked with everybody. From Shulgin taught him how to synthesize MDMA. He was the first person to give Rick Doblin MDMA.
Okay.
He was the first person to teach Dr. Fadiman, the godfather of microdosing, what the word microdosing was. And I know this because Fadiman told me. He's like, "Oh yeah, Robert taught me this word."
That's cool.
And he said it in front of a big audience of like 500, 600 people, which was Fadiman's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, and then the New Age people, Matthew Johnson from Johns Hopkins to Melissa Dawn of Field Trip. You know, my ex was a UCLA professor and scientist. Like, I've had a lot of really amazing, smart individuals around me, and they've helped me formulate, and healers, this method of healing, because I was fucked up. I was not doing good in life. I was addicted to fentanyl and heroin. I was, you know, I've stuck a loaded gun in my mouth more than once. I've got a lot of I had a lot of trauma that I hadn't dealt with, obviously. So I found as many tools as possible. You know, if I look at my fights, I was multitasking. I'm doing kickboxing. I'm doing, you know, wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, like a mixture of things. That's how I accomplished what I accomplished in life. So for me to go in there and be doing yoga and breathwork and meditation and jiu-jitsu and hot and cold therapies, peptides, stem cells, like all of this stuff for a long time, I saw the influx of athletes that were coming into this. And I didn't want them to do it wrong. I don't want them to have to go through the crazy just tour of shit that I went through in the industry. The industry of psychedelics is gross. It's like any industry, and I've been burned by it so many times. I finally work for myself.
Nice.
I don't work with anybody really. University of Miami. I'm starting to work with other people, but it's on behalf of my brand, my nonprofit.
Yeah.
But I'm working with the University of Miami and the UFC and University of Melbourne, Anya Sciences, which are the researchers down in Iquitos at the Ayahuasca Foundation. So I'm lucky where I can, you know, reach out to Johns Hopkins University or whoever it is, you know, Imperial College of London, because these are my peers now. You know, I've gone through it and I've made the mistakes and made the corrections and kept going in the right direction, kept my moral compass in check, and you know, I'm only here to help. I've been taking arrows for this industry for a long time because I knew the benefits of it. I found the benefits in myself, and I was like, I have to just keep going. I'm the one good part about not being a doctor or scientist. I don't have something on my wall, a plaque that they can take, or they can't take my tenure, or they can't fire me from something because I don't give a fuck. Like, right. I'm going to keep going. I might have a crude method, you know. I might be helping people heal if, you know, one of my athletes, for instance, had a major TBI in a race car, really bad. And the doctor that we both work with, thought he was dead. You know, and he got home, and what did I do? I went to his house, and I made him some mushroom tea, and I made him snort lines of ketamine. And it helped. That exact night and moment, he was just telling me how good he felt and how he felt his brain regenerate. I can also mix it in with like peptides and stem cells and stuff. There's a lot of intricacies of the traumatic brain injury protocol that I have, because it's really what are people comfortable with. It's not just psychedelics. If they don't want psychedelics, that's totally fine. I can get that same response out of their body with peptides. And peptides are honestly stronger. Their peptides are insanely good for your body. Like, they make you feel so good.
For TBIs especially?
For everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you want big and buff. Like, I just asked my chemist. I'm like, hey, man, I just want to train more. I don't care how I look. Like, I've always been jacked and whatever. My body just looks, it's never bad. But that's not the point. I just want to train more. And he put me on this peptide blend called 4X. And I put on 20 pounds of muscle in 2 months. And I was like, whoa.
Wow.
I didn't even really notice. So I got off that because I don't need to be 180 pounds. Fucking ridiculous. But,
Can't even pull guard anymore.
I was just crushing everybody. But if I'm going to compete, I'm competing at 155, which is already, I was a 125 pounder. So I'm going to compete at 155. A big difference.
So what were some of the things that, you said that when you got into it, you did it all the wrong way or whatever? What were some things that you've kind of changed with your approach now?
The integration pre and post has a lot of work, has a lot of homework to do. And my daily schedule, I'm up early, breath work and meditation, gratitude, forgiveness, getting myself into a stabilized flow before I get out of my room, realistically. Then, drink a lot of water, go outside, get some sun. Depends on my training schedule that day. But some days I'll fast, some days I don't. And just eating extremely healthy. Like, I had a giant, I dropped my daughter off at Lifeguards, and I went to go eat and do some homework on my computer and do a podcast. And I had this fried chicken bowl with like potatoes, like mashed potatoes and gravy and the chicken and some biscuits, just because I was like, I want to eat my feelings right now. Yeah. And I went in my car, I did a podcast, and I passed out for like 2.5 in a fucking random parking lot. So I can't eat food like that. Like, it really fucked me up today. It ruined my whole day. Like, I'm like, shit.
Yeah, it sucks getting older, huh?
Yeah, and for me to be optimized, I know the path. Like, it's 6 raw eggs, avocado in the morning. If, whenever I eat first, and a piece of fruit, my supplements throughout the day, coffee, a lot of coffee, probably too much coffee. But, the peptides, NAD is really big. Mm-hmm. When I do NAD, actually, you know what? Because I do the NAD in the morning most days, I don't drink as much coffee. I won't need coffee in the morning. Plus, with the breath work in the morning, I've found that the adrenaline that is produced, through that process, the epinephrine, norepinephrine, keeps you caffeine free until like noon. Nice. Those two things really wean me off coffee. So, but some days, I'll have 2 cups. I guess that seems like too much for me. I think 1 cup of coffee is probably pretty good for somebody. Yeah. But I'm also teaching, 5 hours a day. Right. So, and I that's because I love jiu-jitsu. Ayahuasca showed me I need to teach. This is my life of service.
Well, that's cool, man.
My first act of service. I'm retired, so I have time. This is first and foremost in my life. Obviously, my daughter is the first. I come first because I know how to take care of myself. Right. If I don't take care of myself, no one else gets shit. Yeah. Or they get a shitty version of me. So my daughter's next. Like, Daddy doesn't need a new Porsche because London needs a new horse. So it's like that's it. I've lived every visceral response every visceral experience in my life that I've done everything till it hurts, that I wanted to do. So it's like, I don't need to live for myself. Then comes my athletes. And there's a little hierarchy, because I have my pro athletes like Mark Irwin, but or Giorgio Gomez, who's one of the top surfers in the world. Mark just became a world champion in bare knuckle boxing.
Oh, wow.
But I have my students that I see. I see my students more days a week than I do Mark, and I'm one of his coaches for his upcoming bare knuckle fight. So it's just these people that I see pretty much on the daily that I'm coaching. I'm coaching probably 12 different classes a week, and then also private sessions. Private sessions are I don't do a bunch of privates because it's good pay, but it hurts, because if I'm
you got to roll with them.
Yeah, exactly. I got to roll with them. And like today or yesterday, sorry, I had this kid just graduated high school. He's like 190-pound wrestler. Who's just he acts like he moves like a cat.
Yeah.
He's a little kid. So he gets after it, And luckily, I've been doing jiu-jitsu for 26 years. He can get a submission or a choke or whatever that I give to him, and I can let him do whatever the fuck he wants, and it doesn't hurt. Or it's not, but like it's still having all that energy. Having a 200-pound kid on you sucks.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
But I need, now that I'm competing again for the first time in over 5 years, to push my nonprofit. That's the best way to get my nonprofit out there.
Nice.
I've been picking and choosing my hard nights because I'm almost 40 and I can only train really hard 2 or 3 days a week.
Right.
And that's like 2 or 3 sessions a week.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah. When I get close to a fight, I'll do 5 hard sessions a week. Mm-hmm. So basically Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday and then go Saturday as well. And it's rough. It hurts. It really fucking hurts. So I just have to mind my P's and Q's and do my proper training. I'll go to see Corey Beasley, my strength coach, twice a week. Okay. And then I'll do jiu-jitsu 10 times in a week. Okay. I'd say about that.
60 minutes.
And yoga too.
60-minute jiu-jitsu session?
Yeah. No, 90.
90.
Okay. There's drilling. Yeah, there's lots of drilling involved. A ton of drilling. And then so there's usually like drilling for 30, technique for 30, and open rolling for 30.
Nice. Yeah. When you were competing in your 20s, what was that? How many hours were you going hard a week?
Say 5 hours a day.
Right.
Yeah. And you're at the gym for almost 6 to 8 hours a day, and you're training anywhere from 2 to 5. At Colin Oyama's, at Team Oyama, Colin makes and breaks some of the greatest young fighters in the world.
Yeah.
It is a hard system. He creates world champions, and if you want to be a world champion, this is what the fuck you have to do. And the amount of world-class level people that have gone in there and broken, it's heavy. And that's where I spent most of my career. I came in as kind of like the prodigy kid, and he guided me and trained me through, and the whole team there. It wasn't just him. It was Jiva Santana, Romeo Danza, Balquach. We had an amazing team, and Carla Esparza, Alex Perez, Chito Vera. There's been so many other people. It's amazing to see. That's where I take my athletes to get their butt kicked.
Right.
For them to learn, like, hey, this is what it's like. If Mark, who's an actual world champion in bare knuckle, if he gets too much attitude and too much ego, I take him to go see my other world champion friends who will beat the fuck out of him.
Right. So it's more about the competitive athletes in the gym at Oyama?
Yes.
Or is it the way the practices ran?
Oh, it's both. It's both. That place is full of savages that will never even make it. They're not a performer or whatever it is. Some of us get out there and we perform. That's Mark. Mark gets out there and he fights and he performs and he can dog eat dog. And his technique and everything is it's gotten so much better over the last year and a half since we've been working together.
Yeah.
So
it's awesome.
Now he's starting to be able to keep up with those sort of guys that I had beat him up in the first place, because that's what happened to me. My coach would bring in people that would kill me.
Oh yeah.
And they teach you a lesson, and you get the rub.
Mm-hmm.
You work with them, and things get easier, and you get better. And it's a vicious cycle of trauma.
Yeah.
Traumatizing each other. When I said that to the UFC, I go, look, you pay us to get in our underwear and to climb into a cage to fight people for blood money on replay.
Yeah.
And you're giving and receiving PTSD the whole time. If I beat you up, you get PTSD. Yeah. But because I put you in the hospital, because I hurt you, I'm getting something called TITS, trauma-induced trauma syndrome. And that weighs on you. It's hard. It's hard. And of course, I just
knowing that you did that to someone. You're saying,
yeah, your body just holds on to it.
Yeah.
So then that's why, another reason why I do the work I do is because I know so many people that are fucked up. I know so many people that are dying of CTE sort of issues, slowly, from young to old. Like you see it, and you see the decline, and I know how to fix it. I don't want any more people in my world, in my sport, to die, because I've had 3 very, very, very close people to me die because of fucked up careers and brain damage and drug addiction. It was Shane Del Rosario, my best friend. He died in my arms. He partied himself to death in my house, in our house, where he was helping me raise my daughter at this time. And we were both, top of the world, fighting in UFC. Both of our careers went to shit at the same time. And I wasn't out with them. I just woke up to someone screaming in the morning. Went through that whole process. And then Justin Levins, another best friend of mine, a fighter, had a lot of brain damage, a lot of drug addiction, steroid use. He killed a really good friend of mine, which was his wife and then himself. And I was the first one on scene. And then my coach, Jeremy Williams, he kicked me out of the gym and said he can't work with me anymore. And then he was one of my first coaches. And then he killed himself like 2 days later. So, I had a rough go of it. And I don't want anyone else to die.
Yeah.
That's it. I can't, especially because we have ways to fix this sort of stuff. Right. Then I have to put my ass on the line and my take arrows for people or for the industry, because people judge me or shit. So many people in my life thought I was crazy. They still know I'm crazy. I am crazy, but I'm trying to help this movement as much as possible.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think everybody, once they. Yeah, I was completely against any type of drug use my whole life. And then I had close friends and family who were dealing with depression and suicidal ideation. And it's like, okay, I got to figure this out, because I don't want my loved ones to suffer anymore. And so that put me down this road, of finding this. What kind of benefit have you found with people who have been on the path that a lot of your friends were on when it came to suicide? And
well, it's perspective that it clears off that amyloid plaque that's creating this frantic breakup of information in your brain, and depression and anxiety. You clear all that off, you confront your traumas, you change the visceral response your body has to said trauma. You can put it in a box, put it behind you, and you can go about your day.
Yeah.
And then hopefully with this in mind, that one day someone or maybe someone you don't know, they're going through something that resonates with you, and you pull that box out and you show them what's in the box. And you go, look, this is how I dealt with this. Yeah. You might want to try it. This is how it looked to me. This is how I changed it. And that's all I ask, is you help one person, please. This is we need this change to happen in the world. And, we all need little guides and little things that pop up in your life. How many random acts of people just coming up to me and go, hey, I have to tell you this. I got this premonition, or I got, I do this work, where I talk to spirits or whatever. It's happened so many times. Or people that I know come into my life, and I'm just like, okay, I was just looking for someone like you. So the universe provides for me. It's pretty nice. I don't have to search for things. It's just all right in front of me. I know what's coming in my future. I know where I'm at, where I'll be, and there's some things I've seen in visions that I'm excited for.
Nice. I wanted to ask you about coaching. I coached when I got out of college. I coached a middle school and high school wrestling team. Never wanted to do it. Nice. I was always thought coaching's where you go to die, and I met a great guy. He wrestled at Iowa State back in the day. I think in the 80s, maybe early 90s. He was there when Kevin Jackson was there. I think he might have just graduated, but he was still on helping coaching. But anyways, he was the head coach and head of the philosophy and theology department at the Christian school where the wrestling team was. So we would just train these kids all day, and then for 2 hours afterwards talk philosophy and theology. And I loved it. I mean, I'd spend all day there, and I don't think I would ever have coached if it wasn't for him. But you get to that point. I know you as a coach, you get this, but like you end up getting more nervous for your athletes' matches than you have for your own.
Yeah,
and that is a thing you never thought that maybe would have happened. At least I didn't. And then you're like, wow, this is a fulfilling thing that I never thought it would be. You know what I mean? It gives you so much back coaching other people.
Yes, and I used to be that way. I just became so desensitized to life, and I guess it's one of the benefits of being told I've been told I'm on the spectrum. And it's one of the benefits for me is I don't have to show much emotion. But feeling it viscerally, even that, I've just been through so much, and I've done so much work in the space, and I take care of myself so well that I was just talking about this today. I don't really have much of an emotional response to any outside influence, even with my body being in pain. I've got my neck is fucking killing me, and it's just like I don't really get sad. I get happy. I love smiling and being happy. I'm always happy. But crazy things happen. My fiance just left me. She moved in for 5 days. She ran off. She's a runner, so she's long story, but not really that long. She moved up here and told me she was going to run, and I said, look, if you leave, don't ever contact me again. Fuck my feelings. I can't have you around my daughter.
Sure.
And she has finally listened, and she has not contacted me. And it's like I'm able to compartmentalize the stuff and not have a change in myself, which is cool.
Yeah,
it makes life much more manageable.
Right.
And I'm sure there will be events that will throw me off, but I'm also an adult. I'm a protector and a man, and I need to keep my I keep everything in line for a reason. I need to be a good example.
For sure. Now, when it comes to that ayahuasca session that you did where you said you had a realization of you need to teach or you need to coach.
Yeah.
Was that something that you had been considering for a while and you're just like, no, I need to spend more time doing other things, or it just kind of came to you and like, oh, didn't see that coming?
So it started with me reliving every sparring session, fight I've ever had.
Wow.
And all at once. And it was just so emotional and so hard. And it hurt so much. Just all the pain and suffering. Because I was trying to kill somebody. It was a little different. I had a different approach to it. And the trauma inflicted and the trauma, absorbed. I finally, at the end, I don't know if you know who Roberto Duran is.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a famous famous boxer
Hands
who
of
said
stone.
no mas.
Yeah, no mas.
Yeah, he said no mas in his fight. It was like super famous, and he quit mid-fight. And I was in the Yucatan. I was in the the Mayan jungle at a 650-year-old botanical garden. It's the biggest hacienda in the Yucatan. It is called Chambalate. It is the most beautiful place.
Pretty nice spot, huh?
Yeah, and I'm part Native Mexican, about 11%, and that's where I resonate with that area. I had all the archaeological sites, and I had some amazing healers. And I was really able to just connect down there, and I realized that once I said no mas, I went out and they click on the light. I had been doing crazy amounts of medicine all week. Some might say irresponsible, but I know what I'm doing, so I wanted to go deep. I had just been very traumatized by an event where I saw someone I love almost die. So I was taking double cups of ayahuasca each session, and the very last time he clicks on the light, he's like, "All right, last cup," and I stood up and bolted out of the dark room. All I could see was the door, and I was just like, "No mas, no mas, no mas," and I went and I sat in the hacienda out, kind of like looking in the jungle, and I had been communing with the jungle the whole time I was there, talking to it, and I finally broke, and I was like, "Oh man!" And I went through the whole process of quitting, and I was like, "How dare you quit?" But obviously, as I figured it all out, I'm like, "There's nothing to quit. It's over. Like I can quit, and I need to fall back in love with fighting because I hated who I became. I hated the sport. I hated the whole thing, and so I fell back in love with it, and it just taught me to start teaching. Right? It showed me I needed to start teaching. That I needed to get into jiu-jitsu and study kung fu again and start teaching kung fu maybe. Which I don't know if I'll teach kung fu, but I do study with my master Shiheng Yi out of the German Buddhism temple. And there's, they have kung fu, his qigong, Taoism, Buddhism. It's an amazing course that I'm excited to get back into because my Being True to You course, my certification program to be a coach just finished. And for once in my life, now I'm educating myself, or now I'm letting like classes happen in my life. I could never do school. I could never read and write really very well. And now with psychedelics, I've been able to access my brain and put it all together. At first, it was me teaching myself a bunch of stuff, reading every article I could from every person in the space. Right. Like I read everything. Yeah. And then, dating a scientist for 2 years who taught me so much about the spirituality side of it and yoga side of it and shamanic side of it. She was raised by a shaman grandmother. So she would be, at 14 years old, she was in Belgrade going to medical school and to agricultural sciences school at 14. And then she'd run off to the forests back to her family property and see Grandma Gvozda, the Iron Woman, who'd be in her little hut in the back of the property, and she'd be doing shamanistic, witchcraft. And
interesting.
So it gave this person, she's still one of my really good friends, but we don't date anymore. But having those sort of people, and getting all these crazy business opportunities to work with Johns Hopkins, I got the UFC to agree to the Johns Hopkins study, and that fell through, and then that ended up on HBO. Helping a fighter heal and sent it to Dana White. And then he asked to be back in the study, and then it still fell through. Mm-hmm. So the University of Miami is now our studies. Phase 2 starts of our study in about 2 to 3 months, and the UFC has verbally agreed to start enrolling athletes in this microdose psilocybin and CBD study.
That's awesome.
So if and both sides are like, "You're going to have a job doing this. You're going to have a job facilitating this." And I'm like, "Cool, okay."
Believe it when I see it.
It's going to cost. I've had so much smoke blown up my ass. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I don't get emotional. I'm like, "Okay, cool. Like, right. Thank you. I'll talk to you then."
Right.
Because they would have to. I would be away from my daughter. I'd be away from home.
Yeah.
My school. So they'd have to pay me a fuckload of money. This would be like, we're talking like a very good 6-figure salary for me to travel to the fights, escort people, the day after the fights on Sunday, take them to Miami and make sure they embark on the protocol, and they'll be getting paid to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see. I don't care about the money. I don't do things for money. I have money. I do things to help people, and if they do the study, if they start putting people through it, my life work is done. Like that. Yeah. That's my life's work, right? Setting up those fighters to get the analytics and the data. I have my other study going on in Peru later this year with the Ayahuasca Foundation, and the University of Melbourne will be collecting data. University of Miami wants in because they just love what I do, so they're like, we'll if we can. So I've got a lot on my plate. So it's like, can they facilitate me, getting enough of what I need in my life if you're going to take me away from the things that I'm doing. Right.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to Arcana, the spot, right? That's what the place is called?
Yes.
And you said you're 2 years out from that, or a year?
A little over 2 years.
Okay. What made you choose that spot? Was that your first, the first time you took ayahuasca? No. Okay.
No. I had already done like a 15-gram mushroom trip.
15?
I had already done ayahuasca. Yeah, I did 20 grams the first day that we did ceremony with Arcana. And 20 seems to be the magic number. I don't know how often I want to go back there. But that's where the mushrooms showed me, like, I'm having a son. They showed me his name. They showed me all this stuff that's happening. And, I went down there because
any of
Jesse
that,
Gold...
Not to interrupt you, but has any of that transpired that you've seen?
Yeah. So it's happening. I've also met my son for a second time when I was on 2 grams of mushrooms in New Mexico doing breath work with being true to you people. So, yeah, it's all coming true. It is. And this is stuff mushrooms already showed me more than once. And I got to sit with Maria Sabina's niece, which is the first shaman woman to give a Westerner medicine. And that was incredible. That was so incredible. Then I did 3 sits with ayahuasca with a Shipibo shaman. So a Mazatec shaman in mushrooms, a Shipibo shaman with ayahuasca. I also did a 5-MeO ceremony in the morning. So I was mushrooms at night, ayahuasca at night. After the first day or first night of ayahuasca, I couldn't connect completely. I wasn't opening up in the heart space. And Jose, the proprietor, and one of the facilitators, the head facilitator, he's really good at what he does. So they gave me a sapo ceremony on Thursday morning, and then we did ayahuasca again at night, and that's exactly what I needed. I got so much more out of the ayahuasca after that sapo ceremony.
And what is the sapo?
5-MeO DMT.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, the toad.
Which is like 15, 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
And that allows
there's a video.
You said that allowed kind of your heart to open up for the ayahuasca?
That's all I learned was self-love, which was exactly what I needed. I went in there to find it, and it gave it to me for sure. And then that night we drank ayahuasca, and it was really nice. So, just to ask a question there, like, you found self-love. What do you think that you were operating on before? Like, what preconceived idea of that did you have before you experienced it? Well, I knew that I changed, but no one else did yet. People still treated me like the monster that I became when I retired. And people they had no idea. They're like, "You're still Ian," and this was over 2 years ago, so people hadn't quite come around to this new version of me. One of the healing women, one of the priestesses there, or whatever you want to call her, she did some body work on me, rubbed an egg on me and cracked it and looked at it in the sun and did all this sort of healing witchcraft sort of stuff on you. And she, I'm on the table laying down, and she looks, I'm this way and she's this way, and she's like, "Oh no." She goes, "You have bad eyes." And I was like, yeah, I have bad eyes. My right eye's going bad, and my left eye's aging gracefully. I took a thumb in my eye, so it's
Right.
fucked up. But and she goes, no. Like, people, they have bad eyes for you. And she didn't speak the best English, but yo comprende. I speak a little bit of Spanish. Nice. So we start to go over it, and I told her, I said, yes, a lot of people hate me. A lot of people view me in a very, very negative light because of who I became in the end. It was my programming, still my fear of not being accepted.
Okay.
Obviously I wanted to be accepted. I fought in a cage for a living. That's me acting out my childhood traumas. That's me trying to show the world that I'm worth it, to be adored, and I'm a hermit. I'm kind of a loner, even though I have a lot of friends.
Yeah.
I do a lot of stuff on my own. And, I was, even at that point, I was very just sheltering myself because I didn't like all the negative, and I still carried a weird energy that was intense for people. So, I had to start to peel off those layers so I could analyze why and what and where and when and how, so I could actually be okay with who I am, because I was still confused.
Right. Gotcha. Well, man, I mean, that's awesome that you, you keep getting what you need, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Have you ever tried ketamine?
I have not. No. I've got a buddy out here. I did a podcast with. He's got a ketamine clinic out here in L.A. I've just never gone.
I have an invite for you. If you'd like to come to an athlete-based ketamine retreat, we're doing one in Miami. I just had 2 athletes fall out. One, Mark, my fighter's fighting in a couple months, and the other one, here we go. I got word that he's on fentanyl. His mom called me.
Damn.
He's young. I think he's 20. Young, good amateur fighter. It's a lot of potential, but we're doing intravenous ketamine therapy, and there's sound healings and yoga and food, and we're taking care of the whole 3 days.
That's awesome.
If you'd like to come, let me know. Or any athlete that needs help, any athlete or person in general that has a traumatic injury. Little Billy gets hit in the face with a baseball, grandma hits her head in the bathtub, or someone gets punched in the face for 20 years. Whatever it is, send them my way. Yeah. It doesn't have to be we can use CBD, curcumin, whatever, ice bath. Yeah. We can make a change. I just like having a multi-pronged approach to healing because that's how people feel the best. If you can attack the body and the inflammatory system from multiple levels and angles, and give the body a chance to heal, because that's what it needs. But our bodies are meant to live forever. We're so toxic that we can't, because our bodies start to degrade when we're not in homeostasis.
For sure. Now, I know we got a minute and a half here. I want to get you out when you need to get out. But I wanted to ask you, as far as, going as deep into psychedelic therapy as you are, have you seen anybody go too deep in a way that maybe their minds were altered, maybe from ayahuasca, to where they never kind of got back to homeostasis? Okay.
I got back there, obviously, but there's these times where, some people don't come back, and you have to be careful, because they get in. It's this egoic society. These they're the cool kid, they're the bigwig. They get guru syndrome,
right?
And sure, they might preach some good stuff, but deep down they're still damaged. We all are, but it's kind of obvious. Using too much drugs. Using people still, having these crazy interactions. You see them. You're like, why? You've done this much medicine. Why are you not acting different?
What is that? What do you think that is, Ian?
They don't integrate properly. If they integrated properly, then we'd be all right. But they're not. And they can get back there. They can fix it. It's not the end of the world. They just have to change themselves. No one can, as a coach, I can only guide you through it and mirror you.
Right.
And I meet you where you're at. And if you really want to push, then we can talk. But you still have to, tread lightly.
Yeah. Do you think it's this, you think there's a lack of humility there in that integration?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. They don't do the work. So it doesn't happen. You can't just say like, oh, I do this and not do it and think you're going to change. You have to actually put in the work.
That's the one thing I've noticed. And that's why I'm not seeking out to do anything else until I've integrated everything I've learned from this first session. And that is the last thing I want to do, is to use this as just a crutch to experience that thing again.
Of course. Good.
Well, brother, I appreciate this, man. I don't want to keep you. I know you're busy, but
thank you.
I love that you're doing this and you're supportive of all these athletes who give each other brain damage every day. I feel like I've got brain damage from all the clubs and front headlocks I've been in my whole life.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
For sure you do. Yeah, you 100% do, and that's just...
No one ever talks about wrestlers just clubbing the shit out of each other.
No. Especially where out wrestling where you came up, it's fucking rough.
Yeah.
Like California's rough, but maybe you guys are a little more like that, bang it out. And
that Oklahoma Midwestern style.
Yeah, it's rough.
Well, man, I'll let you go. This was fun, man. I loved connecting with you. Yeah, absolutely, man. All right, I'll let you go, brother.
Sure.